box of your preferred answer and click submit. There will also be a quick survey at the end of this webinar session for us to get your feedback. Thank you, and we hope you learn a lot from this webinar. All right, so good afternoon, EMAP, and welcome to our second webinar for this year, which will be a back-to-back discussion of our 2016 EMAP survey results. So for our first hour, we will be discussing the highlights of our 2016 EMAP salary and benefits survey. To find out different trends in compensation and benefits from our own EMAP community, allow me to introduce our speaker for today. He is one of our active consultants here at EMAP as he conducts several public and certificate programs on compensation and benefits. He was also a former VP of HR for several large corporations such as HSBC, Alcatel Philippines, and Sterling Tobacco Corporation. He was also the former director for strategic compensation of ABS-CBN Corporation. So without further ado, let us welcome our speaker, Mr. Bobby Marquez Jr. So hello, Sir Bobby, and welcome to the webinar.
Good afternoon, Isa. Thank you for the introduction. And today, please allow us to present to you the result of our 2016 survey initiatives. These initiatives were spearheaded by our team from the Center for Research and Publication of PIMAP. So last year, we undertook the conduct of the salary and benefits survey report. And we are very pleased to inform you that there were a total of 105 companies which participated in the survey. So if we will very quickly walk you through the survey. The survey has three parts. The first part is all about the cash compensation. And part two is all about compensation practices. This is part two. Okay, it's long. Okay, and part two is all about compensation practices. Okay, and part three is all about benefits. Okay, so so the conduct of this survey has been very exciting and challenging for PIMA. Because we just did not concentrate doing this for the NCR. Rather, our PIMAP team, we did a caravan or a roadshow across the different PIMAP chapters. From way up north, there in Baguio, down in Mindanao. So we conducted and facilitated learning programs, particularly in compensation, to widen the interest and the scope of the coverage of the survey. Now that the survey is already done and completed, of course, we are pleased to share with you the highlights of the survey. As I said earlier, first and foremost, this survey was participated in by 105 companies. Okay, this is the picture of the more or less 105 companies which participated in the survey. Okay, so these are the list of the companies which participated in this survey. There were about 105 of them. Okay. And as I said, the survey is composed of three parts. And when we talk about the first part, the cash compensation data, uh, this is how we segmentized the report. First is we have the general industry presentation of salary data. Okay, and then we have a segmentation of cash data by company size. We segmentize the large companies from the data of the medium-sized companies. Unfortunately, nobody from the list which belong to what we call small industry. We also have the data segmentized by location. If you want to see the data for Mega Manila, if you want to see the data for NCR and for provincial, this report also summarized the cash compensation data of this report. And then we also have the salary data by industry. Okay, we have it by industry. Like for example, the academe. The academe is segmentized further according to non-teaching and teaching. So you will see here we have the banking, we have the BPO, we have the construction, we have the IT, and so forth and so on. Okay. And after we have presented the data, no, we also have another segmentation by functional industry. So we have here the cash data for the general management. And these are, of course, the different functional units. Like you will see the data for core plan, you will see the data for legal, for internal audit, you will see the data for finance, for HR. Okay. Down the line, we have the data for admin, supply chain, IT, sales and marketing, and manufacturing, engineering, and customer relations, and etc. and etc. So in a nutshell, this is how we presented the data. You see on this part the job level, and you see the different market percentiles, like what is the prevailing market value for the 10th percentile of the general industry, the 25th percentile. Of course, the competitive pay line of the market, which is the 50th percentile of the median, way up above average. And here is the number of observations or the number of salary data that we have collated from the different companies which participated. So this is the picture of the general industry. So if you will, like for example, CEO, we can see here very glaringly that the median of the market is about 213,000 plus monthly rate equivalent. Okay. So if we will go down the line, you see the general industry, you see by company size, this is the large companies. So you will start to see that the salary of the CEO started to change. Now it's almost 350 per month. And if you will go down the line, what about the medium companies? This is the picture. Okay. So as I described earlier, you will see the segmentation of the data according to the different segmentation that we have summarized in this report. Okay. Now, let's go very quickly and look at the summary of the highlights of the compensation practices. Okay. The compensation practices will give us an indication okay, like for example, granting of salary increase in 2015, no? Because the survey was done 2016, and we have to get the info about what did many of companies, what did they do insofar as the granting of salary increase in 2015. So you will see here the summary or the highlight of our study. Okay. For budget purposes, you will see here the percentage of salary increases granted in 2015. Okay. What about the percentage? Okay. We have also summarized the percentage of salary increase in 2015. And what about the implementation of salary increase? No? Okay. Did they do it across the board? Did they do it CBA? And so forth and so on. So all of the many answers to many of your interesting questions are answered in this initiative that we did for 2016. And of course, the survey is now available. Of course, the benefits from the de minimis, okay, and from life insurance, healthcare, down the line, up to retirement benefits are all summarized in the survey. Now, so what is the benefit of the survey to many of us HR professionals? Now, of course, when we talk about survey, the big concern of many of our organizations is to justify, are we competitive vis-a-vis the market? Okay, this is the nagging question which many of our employees oftentimes ask. Okay. They will say, I am underpaid, no, and overworked. But the employers feel that their companies are well taken care of. So the gap. To bridge that gap, we need to make use of a very rational data in the form of a salary and benefits survey report to bridge that gap. And for many of us HR professionals, the mathematical calculation to bridge the gap is in compensation management, we call comparation. Okay, we are competitive if our company-wide compa ratio is 100%. So how do we calculate that? Okay, so how much are you paying your employee or your employees? Okay, are they your best talents? And therefore, if they are, therefore, you have to have a pay strategy to benchmark your best talents vis-a-vis median of the market. So your best HR manager, for example, if in this survey we see that the market is paying a top-notch HR manager 100K, okay? Therefore, to be competitive, your top-notch HR manager must have that level of compensation that he receives on a monthly basis. If not, meaning then therefore the compa ratio is not 100%, probably less, if not significantly less. And therefore, the danger signal is the vulnerability of your best talents to be pirated by your competitor, your friendly competitor. Okay? So, again, uh, this is a discussion through a webinar approach. There are, of course, we know that many of the questions uh, are needed to be answered. But in a nutshell, we put into reality the numerous requests from our member participants. Uh, yes, yes. Is it? Is it? None. Okay, I'm hearing a question. Okay. Anyway, just for me to continue. Anyway, just for me to continue. Okay. So, okay. So, sorry for that technical glitch. Okay. So, going back to bridge that gap, the survey is very, very important. And last year, the numerous requests from many of our members for PIMA to fulfill this request of putting in place a salary and benefits survey was made possible by the Center for Research and Publication team. And that's why it is our privilege to share with you the highlights of the survey. And of course, by having a rationalized market data, which will guide us in our day-to-day decision making in terms of knowing, are we competitive or are we not competitive? Okay. Why is our attrition alarmingly high? Is our compensation in reality competitive with the market? Because we just cannot second guess that our structures are competitive. We need to mathematically defend that argument, as I said, vis-a-vis this measure we call comparison. But without a market data, of course, it is very difficult for us to justify, to defend whether we are competitive with our market. Now, just for the benefit of how to use the highlights of the survey, we see here that the data is very granular. We have it even by functional discipline segmentation. So you see the data for finance, you see the data for HR, you see the data for sales and marketing and IT. And if we are in sync with the trends or latest trends in compensation management in terms of doing salary structures, okay, the latest now is doing functional salary structures, meaning you do now and design the salary structure per functional area. Why? Because the market is, of course, very glaringly telling us the market for finance is different, largely different, significantly different from that of the market data of HR, from IT, from sales and marketing, from operations, and so forth and so on. And in line with these evolving trends in compensation management, we also designed our 2016 salary and benefits survey to make it attune to the needs of the global best practice nowadays. So Of course, I have 30 minutes to present to you the highlights of the survey. I think I'm almost there. And we're not done. After my discussion of the highlights of the benefits, of course, we are more than willing to hear from you. What are your questions? What are some of your further clarifications? What are the most other interesting highlights that you would like us to share with you insofar as this 2016 PMAP salary and benefits survey that we have conducted for you? Some of your questions that we can, of course, answer. So with this very brief discussion of the highlights, we would like now to proceed to the second part of our webinar, which is the Q&A portion. And as Isa explained earlier, we have different modes of you telling us your questions. And of course, I'm bringing back Isa here so she can facilitate our Q&A portion of the webinar.
Okay.
I'm just here.
So thank you, Sir Bobby, for that wonderful presentation. I'm sure the data that you presented to our participants will surely help them provide more competitive compensation packages for their employees. I believe we have time for some questions, and as mentioned earlier, you can send in your questions through the comment box in your control panel. So we have one question. So, all right. So based on your survey, which functional disciplines are the highest paid?
Okay, we have top 5, no? Okay, and these are the managers. Okay, so business systems analysts, supply chain generalists, okay, IT help desk support, IT architecture, marketing. All of them are 150K per month and above. Now, just to anticipate questions that we cannot answer during our Q&A portion, please send us email about your questions, and we will be more than willing to reply through email. Okay, so we will answer all those questions that we will fail to respond to in this webinar session today.
If we have another question, can we use daily meal allowance for overtime work of managerial positions?
Oh, generally speaking, meal allowance are for rank and file. Okay. Generally speaking, because when you talk about for OT, specifically for OT, only rank and file people are, of course, entitled to overtime pay, and not managerial positions. However, if by virtue of your company policy you wish to implement that, then that's fine.
All right, because everyone needs to eat.
Correct.
Even managers. So our next question, please. All right, our third question. Where and how can we get a copy of the survey?
The survey, of course, when I talked about the 105 participating companies. Okay, so as part of their participation, they were given the benefit of purchasing the survey at, how do you call it, discounted rate. Okay. But for those who miss the chance to participate, however, are willing to get the report, for PMAP members, for PMAP member companies, you can get it for 25,000. Okay. For non-PMAP members, of course, you can still purchase the report for 35,000. how you can call us, okay, through PMAP landline, or you can send us an email. No? If you are interested to get a copy of our 2016 salary and benefits survey.
All right. You can contact the PMAP research team if ever you'd like to purchase a copy of the 2016 PMAP salary and benefits survey. It's actually a soft copy, but if you'd like, we actually have the copy here. Well, this is a hard copy that we have right now. It's additional 5,000 from 25,000 pesos. Yeah.
This is this thick. And,
it's really thick. All right. So our next question, please.
So if I want to get it hardbound, the prices that I said will be plus 5K.
Yes.
Okay. For the cost of the binding. No? Okay. That's fair enough.
All right. So another question. We have another question. Okay. So as mentioned earlier, okay, so right now we're still waiting on some questions. So if you have any questions for our speaker, Sir Bobby, please don't hesitate. Type them down in the comment box, and
we're in the process of gathering the.
Yeah. So we're currently gathering the questions.
The questions.
And hopefully you'll be able to send some.
We have another question.
All right, so we have another question. Oh wait, it's not a question. So anyway, we hope that you stay tuned for our second part. Around 3 o'clock, we will have the highlights naman of our 2016 Collective Bargaining Index.
Any questions?
Do we have any questions regarding our 2016 PMAP salary and benefit survey?
Okay, more questions are coming in, so please bear with us.
All right, so we have a question that says, do we have merit increase for the percent of merit increase for 2016? Sir Bobby,
okay, let us see the portion on compensation practices. Okay. Okay, so part of the report is a forecast, no? Percentage of salary increase in 2016, because as I said, this was done last year, and in the middle of the year we're also doing it. We're already doing the survey, so we had this part of if they can give us a forecast, and we have here an answer to the question, no? Percentage of salary increase in 2016. So in 2016, this is more of a forecast, because what we have as a concluded portion was the salary increase in 2015. Okay, so that the 2016 here data is more of a forecast, but of course we have the data for you summarized in this report.
All right, so thank you for the questions. We've been receiving more questions. So our next question is, what is the rationale behind giving laundry allowance?
Oh, laundry allowance is just part of what we call the de minimis. Okay, And of course, when we talk about the de minimis, many companies are maximizing the grant of the de minimis so as to take advantage of the tax benefit privilege of this benefit. So, in other words, many companies are putting part of the benefits uh, in this allowance we call boundary allowance, more particularly to avail of the tax benefit provision of the de minimis benefit. Okay, so that's it.
All right. Our next question, what is the best approach to the implementation of salary structure if we see that there is a high variance from the market versus our current ranges?
Okay, so many companies they have a budget. Okay, so the, the indicator that will tell us that the gap is wide or narrow, can we afford it or not, is of course the budget. So if the cost to restructure your salaries will be alarmingly high, then many companies typically adopt several strategies. Like for example, first they will do it in tranches. Like for example, if they will cost if the the variance will cost them, example, 30%. No, they will implement it in 3 years' time. No, 10% this year, 10% second year, 10% third year. Okay, that's one strategy. The other strategy is they look fundamentally who are their best performers and critical talents, and they initially rectify the salary gaps of their best performers vis-a-vis market, and probably many other strategies, no, to align your gap, no, vis-a-vis market, especially so if there is a huge discrepancy between market and your internal salary structures. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
For our next question, as mentioned by Sir Bobby earlier, he said that overtime pay is only applicable to rank and file. So the question here is, for supervisors who are not entitled to overtime pay, what is the common practice for incentivizing them for excess of 8 hours of work?
Many companies, they pay fixed allowances. No? So in the event supervisors render overtime or they render extra work, no? So many companies, they don't call it OT pay, but they call it by another name to compensate supervisors or even managers for that matter who have to extend work to finish work, and therefore they were given additional compensation, but definitely not in the form of what you call OT pay.
All right. So our next question, how are representation allowance or responsibility premium for managerial posts implemented across the industry?
Okay. Of course, when I answer this question, I am at the mercy of many of the CFOs or finance managers because many of the responsibility allowances or representation allowances are tax shield. Okay. But it depends on the company. Okay. But in my experience working with multinational companies, representation or responsibility allowances, if and when this is given, this is grossed up and therefore taxable. Okay. Now, in another consulting experience I had, one company is implementing representation allowance. Okay. But in order for you to be able to avail of the tax-free benefit forfeiture of the representation allowance, you have to collect your receipts. And at the end of the month, you have to submit some total of the receipts that will correspond to the amount of your representation allowance. In the event there is a discrepancy, that discrepancy is taxed by your finance manager. Okay, so no receipt, no tax benefit feature.
All right. So for our next question, would you have an idea on the ratio of basic pay and variable pay or commission for salespeople?
This is what we call compensation mix. Okay. Uh, if the structure is non-sales, okay, I'm sorry, because when you talk about the compensation mix for non-sales and for sales, you see an alarmingly different compensation mix or the ratio. Let's talk about the non-sales. Typically, the ratio of base to benefits is 70-30. Okay. But if you will factor in the variable pay or the VPP or the performance bonuses, it's typically 20 to 25%. Okay, base to variable pay. So now let's go to the sales. Okay, when you talk about the sales, the ratio is inverted. It is an inverted ratio in the sense that the amount of the commission sales incentive of VARPay is much larger than that of the benefit. Oh, I'm sorry, the base pay. So if the benefit is if the base pay is 30%, the VARPay is so it's about 70-30, 60-40 in favor of the sales commission. Now the principle for that being, you have to motivate your salespeople to sell, because the mindset of many industries, if they are happy with their base pay, probably they will not hit their sales targets anymore because they are well provided by the base salary that they are receiving. So it's a different story. It is an inverted ratio when you talk about the compensation mix for the sales people.
All right. So our next question: are field employees exempted from overtime pay?
The labor code says so. Okay. Field personnel are not governed by the 8 hours work. So yes.
Question on night differential. So is night differential applicable to supervisors as well?
Again, according to your labor code, night differential is also applicable for your rank and file. Now, if your company, in many of the BPOs, when they talk about night shift differential, they implement it almost across the board, meaning even the supervisors are entitled to NSD or night shift differential. If that is a company policy, then that's fine. But if we are to answer the question, is the labor code allowing NSD for the supervisor, then the answer is only rank and file.
All right, so we still have about 10 minutes per question and answer, so keep your questions coming in.
Oh, we have still one more question, Naryn?
Do we have more questions? All right.
Or just one? More. Okay.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes or so. Just keep them coming in, and we'll do our best to answer your question. So if there's anything you want to know about salary and benefits for your company, please don't forget to send them in through the comment box in your control panel. And you can ask in Tagalog.
Pwede po tayong magta-Tagalog.
Opo,
No? By the way, just to keep you hanging on, just to please hang on, because we still have our second speaker for the second part of our webinar, collective bargaining agreement. So after this Comp and Ben webinar, please stay and hang on. Okay.
All right. So we have another question. What are your thoughts and insights about fixed OT?
Okay, for rank and file, of course, this is not allowable. Okay. But as I said earlier, many companies are implementing fixed allowance to compensate for OT. Okay. So, but you don't call this overtime pay. This is, of course, a compensation, no? In order to, or this is a form of payment to compensate for additional hours of work rendered, not basically for your rank and file, rather for your other employee levels like your supervisors, your PT, even your managers.
All right. Looks like we have so many HR personnel asking about OT pay. Marami tayong employees na nag-OT ngayon. So, next question, can you give us an idea of the usual benefits for the BPO industry?
Oh, the BPO industry benefits package. Of course, not significantly different from the typical benefits package of the many industries in the Philippines right now. But in the BPO, what I see to be peculiar is their number one, the NSD, the night shift differential. Many companies are implementing 20%. Okay, and not just for the rank and file, even for their team leads who are classified as supervisory people are also being given this what you call 20% NSD. Now, but what I can see for the many BPO companies, they have like for example rice allowance, meal allowance. They have so many other allowances being given to the BPO employees from the BPO sector. But in terms of the difference, not exactly different. In fact, if you will look at the similarity, the overlap is very common. Okay, and I would say that the peculiarity in terms of practice is not that significant.
All right. So we're waiting on our next questions. And we still have 5 minutes. So if you still have any questions, you can take advantage of this time to ask Sir Bobby. Because, you know, we don't have a lot of opportunities with the compensation and benefits guru. So yeah, we'll be waiting for your questions until the end of our time.
Okay.
So Sir Bobby, is there anything you'd like to add?
Our staff who are collating the questions are still very busy doing the pencil pushing. So please give us time to read the questions. Pwede po kayong magtanong na sa Tagalog, no? Okay.
Great. So we have another question. So if I am based in Manila but will be transferred to a province, will there be a change in my pay considering that I am daily paid?
Of course, our labor code, Article 100, prohibits diminution. Okay, so by virtue, okay, of that very provision in the labor code, your salary cannot be diminished. When you talk about change, it can be less, it can be more. It cannot be less, but it can be more. Okay, so.
All right, so our next question. Can existing benefits be taken away if an employee is transferred to another position? Or is it a diminution?
Diminution. Okay. Many employees practice this what we call they grandfather the benefits because, again, of this provision in our law that diminution is not allowed. Okay? So, take note of the terminology in compensation that we use, grandfathering. So meaning you carry over the benefits. But of course, there are disadvantages of that because that is also perceived as a distortion from many of our employees, and therefore that needs to be communicated properly.
All right, so we have another question. So what Comp and Ben innovations do you see or anticipate to be happening soon in the Philippines?
Okay, the innovation in the benefits part, the innovation that is now happening, particularly with this progress in our IT, in our technology, the flex bin. No? They also call it cafeteria. Okay. Meaning, if traditionally you have this set of benefits that employees can avail of, in the cafeteria or flex bin, you have a choice. Okay. So cafeteria, there are three ways of designing a cafeteria. One is the modular. The second model is what you call 4 plus, and the third model is what you call full flex bin. Okay, so this is a recent innovation. In fact, flex bin is not recent. Okay, in the Philippines it is, and many are implementing this, as I said, because the IT is now making it possible for many companies to develop and implement the FlexPay. Now, the salary structure part, the design of a quartile functional salary structure is also gaining ground. This means that I have a salary structure for HR, different structure for finance, and so forth and so on. Now, another innovation in compensation management, of course, the survey. Okay, now many industries are doing the networking per industry. Like, for example, the semicon, they're doing their own survey initiative, pharma, hotel, okay, and so forth and so on. These are some of the many innovations that are taking off, and of course, in job evaluation, the competency-based JE is also gaining ground. Okay.
All right. So our next question is: salary a reason for the attrition rate?
Okay. Many of the companies exit interview report will say so. Okay. Salary. Okay. But in our experience, doing company-wide analysis of comparison for many companies, we see that the comparison of many companies are competitive. They don't know it. And then employees will complain that the salaries of their employees are mababa. Okay. Now, many studies are now saying that, especially if you are familiar with the MML or Monday Morning Leadership, okay, this book is telling us that people leave because of people. Okay, so the way people are managed, the leadership, the culture, how employees are being regarded by their leaders, more than anything else, are reasons for the high attrition rate of many companies. So many of the exit interview studies are, well, it correlated, okay, will tell us that exit interviews are used as a convenient scapegoat by many employees in saying, my salary is mababa and therefore I am leaving the company. But he cannot say that I am leaving because I cannot work with my boss anymore. So if we will say salary is a reason, uh, in the tip of the iceberg, yes, but the deeper meaning is no.
All right, so our next question. It is actually a follow-up question from one of our questions earlier. So can we remove certain allowances if there will be a change in position, but note that there will be no decrease in the gross pay?
Okay, I think this is what they call buying the benefit. Okay, but I think this has to be communicated and documented properly. But if you have a union, then this is another story. you you uh, you will see that it is more complicated to address issues like this if you are unionized.
All right. So our next question, what are the advantages and disadvantages of flexible benefits?
Okay. Uh, Flexible benefits, of course, the advantages, it has many advantages. Because, for example, your male demographics, they don't need maternity, right? Okay. If you have, example, a maternity benefit over and above what SSS provides, okay, that that is a female demographic benefit. Okay. So if you have a fixed cost for your benefits program, okay, uh, not many of your employees can can avail of or utilize or optimize the benefit cost. But in a FlexBen, you put a how do you call it, money in your benefit FlexBen account, okay, and depending on my demographic needs, okay, and depending again on the design of the benefit FlexBen benefits, if it's modular, uh, full flex, or it is core plus, then I can select, and therefore, if the cost of my FlexBen uh, benefits in my account, in my benefits account, is 30% of my base salary, then depending on the design of the FlexBen in my company, I can spend, okay, my benefit money in availing the benefits that I need. Okay. So unlike the, you know, you have this HMO, okay, and the company has the package including dependents, but I am single, I don't have kids, so I cannot make use of that. So in the FlexBen, all of the disadvantages that we can experience from the traditional benefits package are addressed in the FlexBen.
Okay, so we have time for only one last question.
One last question.
Yeah,
Again,
so
we say that if you have other questions, just send to us your, just send it to us through email, and of course we will be more than glad to reply to your questions.
all right, so our last question. During a merger where harmonization of benefits needs to be done, what is the guidance if one company has more overall compensation package, especially non-monetary than the other?
Oh, it became the company with more benefits. That company becomes the benchmark. So little by little, the company with less benefits slowly, okay, they adapt again slowly, okay, because of the cost.
So unfortunately, it looks like we're out of time for this segment of this afternoon's webinar. Take note that Sir Bobby only presented the highlights of our survey and the full report is now available. You may contact the PMAP research team should you wish to get a copy of the full report. So you may email us at pmap@pmap.org.ph or our telephone number 726-1532. And with that, we'd like to thank Sir Bobby for his time and stay tuned for part 2 of our webinar where we will discuss the highlights of our 2016 PMAP Collective Bargaining Index.
Thank you very much. And of course, part 2 of our webinar will follow shortly. Thank you very much for joining us.
And stay tuned. All right, so let me call our next speaker, Attorney Nod. All right, sige. So, for part 2 of our webinar this afternoon, we will be discussing the different trends in collective bargaining. So we know that in unionized companies, collective bargaining is the process wherein unions and management negotiate wages and other conditions of employment. And sometimes it can be difficult to arrive at an agreement, especially if you're not too familiar with what the other companies provide in their CBAs. Because of this, PMAP, in partnership with Change Management International Incorporated, came up with the 2016 Collective Bargaining Index to serve as a guide for employers on the trends in the different CBA negotiations. So to discuss these trends with us this afternoon, we have our speaker, who is a PMAP past president, the chairperson of Change Management International Incorporated, vice president of the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, commissioner of the Tripartite Voluntary Arbitration Advisory Council, co-author of the book Personal Management in the Philippines, and a lecturer on labor relations and human resource management at PMAP, ECOP, LaSalle Professional Schools, UP Soler, and the Ateneo de Manila University. So let's welcome to the webinar Attorney Noli Payos, DPM. All right, so hi Attorney, welcome to the webinar.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, fellow PMAPers. Allow me to discuss with you a very important subject. It's called Core Bar Index. This is a joint venture project with PMAP and CMI, or called Change Management International Incorporated. The pioneers, the PMAP and Change Management are the pioneers of this kind of project, and actually this has been going on for so many years, starting in the mid-90s up until 2007. Somehow, for one reason or another, this stopped, and suddenly there seems to be a feeling of a critical need of this kind of information, not only because of the growth of unions in the Philippines, but there is really a long-term need that the HR professionals need this kind of data. And as a result of this, through the initiative of your dynamic and active, aggressive executive director and past president Rene Hiner, we have resurrected this Core Bar Index. Before I proceed, let me just explain to you that there seems to be an impression from some quarters that Core Bar Index is only very relevant to people who are working in unionized companies. This to me is absolutely wrong. Why? Because remember that there are only about 10% of the total workforce, about 14 million, that are unionized. In short, 90% of the working force are not unionized. Therefore, the 90% are companies, belong to companies that are non-unionized. And the HR professionals, with more reason, they should keep abreast of what are the trends in salary increases, benefit increases, and all other elements of the collective bargaining agreement, so that they will be at least ensure, they will at least ensure themselves that they're giving increases or benefits better, if not more competitive than those that belonging to the unionized companies. Because remember that one of the major causes of unionism is people are unhappy with their salaries or benefits. And because of this, with more reason that HR professionals or managers should really be more interested in what's going on with collective bargaining agreements, so that they'll be keeping abreast with what the unionized companies are giving, so that they'll be more competitive than those that are with the unionized companies. Now, having said that, let me go down to the specifics. Core bar. What is core bar? It is actually a contraction of the words collective bargaining agreement. Why index? It is called index because it is a comparative survey of the latest CVs registered with the Bureau of Labor Relations. At this juncture, let me explain the importance of its registration. Remember that we have gotten this data from the 297 recent CBAs now on file with the Bureau of Labor Relations that involve about 247 companies, and they are registered with the Bureau of Labor Relations. A CBA is a contract between the union and management, and unless it is contrary to law, public policy, or morals, a contract is the law between the parties. And either party who violates the contract, the other party, the aggrieved party, has the right of redress to file an action either with the labor court or in the civil court for the enforcement of the contract. And if it is not registered, it therefore lacks the legality. Of course, nobody can prevent them from filing a case, but it is better to be registered because once it is registered, the CBA is really clothed with some kind of legality, and therefore it is legally enforceable. Now, please go to the next book. The CBA is a critical function of HR. Why is it a critical function? Because in a unionized company, CBA negotiations is a function of HR. Of course, there are big companies where HR and labor relations are delegated. But usually, the most common is if you are an HR manager or HR professional, you carry with you the responsibility also of labor relations. And if it is a unionized company, it is the responsibility, overall responsibility of HR to ensure that the CBA is concluded successfully. It could make or unmake an HR manager. Why? Because if he gives a very onerous or extravagant compensation in terms of economic benefits, including salary increases and wages, he could be accused by management of tearing down the labor to the union, the interests of the company. On the other hand, if he puts up a very hardened stunt and risks strike or slow down, the onus of blame would also be laid on him by the management. And it could even jeopardize his career in the company. And in some cases, he could be fired. Also, it could make or unmake company because if the CBA negotiation is not done properly, and there is no thorough study and preparation, and the company turns out to be giving more than what is due to the employees, and it is out of whack of what is the normal salary increase being given, the stockholders will be breaking down the necks of the directors as well as top management and blame them for affecting the bottom line results of the company. And if the company goes down the tube because it has given so much extravagant compensation to the union, the stockholders will blame the company leaders, top management as well as the directors. So the real objective of CBA negotiations, so far as HR professionals is concerned, is to be able to conclude an agreement that is least onerous to the company without the risk of strike or slowdown, and in some cases, and if the strike, there is the danger of a sabotage. And when it comes to strike, it is, to me, it is better to have a strike because you know the enemy, who is the enemy, just across the picket line. But if there is a sabotage, you will never know what it is sabotage. So that is the risk that you will take. Therefore, CBA is a very critical function of human resource professional or manager. The key here is a good preparation. Preparation is the key to successful conclusion of the CBA negotiations. There is a saying that runs like this: forearm is forearm, meaning in order to go to the battle, you must be prepared. You must be armed with all the resources, all the data, all the statistics that is at your command so that you'll be able to know what to give, when to give, what not to give. And therefore, a good negotiator must be well prepared. And the Colbar Index provides this kind of information. It provides with the facts and figures relating to unions' economic as well as the non-economic demands. The economic issues, wage salary increases, normally cause deadlock, leading to unions in filing a notice of strike. And therefore, the negotiator, the HR professional, must be super sensitive to ensure that he will be able to strike an amicable settlement. And in order to do this, he must know what we're given, what are the common trends when it comes to salary, wage increases, benefits increases, concessions insofar as workers' rights are concerned, what are the provisions there that are related to management prerogatives, the no strike, no lockout clauses, union security clauses, provisions of the collective and the grievance machinery, because in the grievance machinery, it differs from one company to the other. Some grievance procedures specifically mention the names of the preferred arbitrator or panel of arbitrators if there is a dispute relating to the implementation of the CBA or the interpretation of the CBA. On the other hand, there are also provisions of the grievance procedure where there is no specific name given to an arbitrator panel of arbitrators. The choice is done by drawing lots. So this is very important for the negotiator to know before he agrees to certain provisions of the CBA. Now, it comes to pay, it is always bad policy to underpay. It is equally bad also to overpay. Therefore, the CBA, the Colbar Index would answer to these provisions, whether it is you are overpaying or you are underpaying. The Colbar Index is your roadmap. It is just like a compass. It is just like the North Star. You want to arrive at a certain destination without drowning yourself or sinking the ship. And you can only do this if you provide yourself with enough provisions. And the Colbar Index, therefore, provides with this. And it answers several questions. Like, for example, what is the trend in the wage salary increases by industry and overall? What's the trend in vacation leave, bereavement, emergency, union, and other leaves? There are many other leaves that are being asked by the union all over the Philippines. What's the trend in medical, life, and accident insurance, burial, and other similar benefits? What's the trend in major bonuses and other bonuses in addition to the 13-month pay? What's the trend in retirement benefits? What's the trend in cost of living allowance? What's the trend in signing bonus? Signing bonus in most CBAs, in my own experience, are always given by the management in order to prompt unions to sign at once a collective bargaining agreement. that is one incentive for them to sign. What's the trend in millions of other economic issues that unions want to negotiate? This and many more, the Core Index provides you with rightful answers. On non-economic issues, it answers following questions. What's the trend in security clauses? Close shop, union shop, maintenance of membership shop. Close shop, as you know, is you cannot join a company, you cannot be employed in a company unless you first join a union, which is very rare, incidentally, in the Philippines. And to me, rule unto the company that runs close shop. You will know what are the trends of this right? Is it maintenance of membership shop or union shop? What's the trend in duration of CBAs? The law now allows, it used to be 3 years. The law now allows 5 years. Why is it 5 years? Because there are lots, in the past, there are lots of union raiding among unions themselves, so that to maintain some kind of industrial peace for the next 5 years, at least the management or the management or the employer is assured that there is industrial peace. And there will be only an allowance of union raiding after the 5-year period. So what's the trend? Is it 3 years or 5 years? Mostly, it is 3 years for economic, but for the political issues, it is 5 years for the life of the agreement. What are the common management prerogatives of this right? What are the common workers' rights that are specified? What are the trends in the no strike or no lockout clauses? What's the trend in the code of conduct and job classification? Is it included in the CBA? What's the trend in the grievance procedures and the selection of the voluntary arbitrators? This and many more political issues. The Core Index provides you with the answers. Also, in this, the Core Index, there's a principle in CBA negotiations which runs like this. Don't give what others don't give. Give only what you can afford and consider the present economic indicators as your additional information. Core Index, aside from the CBA comparison of all the CBA covered there, provides you with the following current economic indicators: the consumer price index, the cost of living and changes or increases therein, the prevailing wage levels. Preparation in CBA is not the only thing. To me, it is everything. Don't negotiate unless you are armed. Armed with facts and figures, and only Core Index can arm you. Buy now at PMAP. It is very reasonable in price, and buy now is a good investment. It is an investment with a good return because you are armed now with important data and information. Excuse me. It is therefore an investment where the returns are beyond, I would say, pecuniary estimation. Buy now. Thank you.
All right. So, thank you, Attorney Tayos, for your presentation. So now we have time for question and answer with Attorney Tayos. So, once again, if you have any questions for us, please do not hesitate. Leave them in the comment section in your control panel. So, Attorney, first question. We have, if a case is filed to the company, how do we know which ones to fight and which ones to continue?
Say it again.
If a case is filed to the company, how do we know which ones to fight and which ones to continue?
What kind of case? Depends on the case. It has connection with the CBA, or is it the failure to pay according to the labor standards provided by law? It will depend. My answer to that is it depends.
All right. Okay. For our next question, what is the daily salary increase per CBA year in the automotive industry?
Automotive here, Uh, by the way, the biggest company industry here that is classified is transportation, but automotive is different. Transportation, for example, the buses are the shipping and all that, and that represents the biggest among the industries. And the next one is beverages, like soft drinks. The rest are minor. In order to classify into an industry, the rule that we provided is that if there are only less than 4 participants, we don't consider that as an industry. We only consider industry if there are 4 or more participants. Now, in the case of the automotive, I think there are very few here. By the way, I must confess that I'm a bit reluctant to tell all what is inside because you might not have the incentive to buy anymore the Colmar Index. You must as well buy it so that you can have all the details. I would be willing only to tell some, but not all, because these are found. You will only know this if you buy the index itself. If I may compare, if I may use an analogy, and pardon the poor analogy, like a woman's skirt, it should be short in order to be interesting, but long enough to travel. I hope it's important.
Okay.
What else?
Yes, sir. So our next question, if there's an ongoing case in the NLRC, how will this affect CBA negotiation if it will coincide?
It will not affect the civil negotiations. The case pending in the NLRC will still go on unless the case has something to do with the CBA negotiations. For example, if there is a deadlock in the collective bargaining negotiations, and as a result of the deadlock, the union has filed a notice of strike. And within since the deadlock under the rules, we have a 30-day period, calling off period. Within the 30 days, the Department of Labor can conciliate or mediate. And if it is a vital industry, the Secretary of Labor has 2 options. Okay, one is to assume jurisdiction and try to mediate or conciliate or make a decision, no matter how hard try is. Or the other option is the Secretary of Labor certifies the deadlock to the NLRC or to the National Labor Relations Commission. And in both cases, if it is done by assumption or certification, it has the effect of stopping the plan of the union to go on strike. And if they have already gone on strike, it has the effect of ordering them to return back to work. So that's the only case where the negotiations is affected, because precisely the reason it has gone to the Secretary of Labor or to the NLRC is because of the deadlock of the collective bargaining.
All right. So our next question, what will be the impact if a company doesn't have an existing CBA or union?
If the company has no existing CBA or union, it means that there is no problem insofar as union dealing is concerned. But it does not mean that it is challenged, that there's a challenge part of the HR. In fact, in my experience, it is more of a challenge than HR professional to have no union because you are always tiptoeing practically to ensure that no people will be aggrieved, no people will be displeased, because if they are not happy, they might form a union.
All right. So the next question is kind of long, but I'll read it out. If a labor case is filed against the company, example would be illegal dismissal, but there was a valid reason like poor performance, insubordination, or verbal assault, and procedures were followed, do we concede or do we fight?
What?
If a labor case is filed against the company, such as illegal dismissal, but there was a valid reason, like poor performance, insubordination, or verbal assault, and procedures were followed, do we concede or do we fight the labor case?
You mean the union files a case?
Yes.
I don't get the last question. Do you what?
Do you concede to the labor case or do you fight it?
and you concede?
Apo.
No, because under the law, you can fire a person, an employee, on just grounds. And Article 43 provides precisely 5 grounds. One, for example, is lack of performance. But remember that they are very strict. The performance must really be proven. Not only must be habitual, it must be reasonable. The standards are reasonable, and the employees are informed beforehand about the standards. So you cannot just fire on the basis that you by saying that you lack performance. You must prove it. And by the way, when it comes to dismissal due to lack of performance, be sure that your performance management system is really very good, and you can defend it in court, because there are many performance management systems that are questionable. I hope that answers the question.
Right. So our next question, what is the average CBA increase from last year?
It depends upon the approach to this. It depends upon the type of employees, where they are daily paid or salaried or monthly. It also depends upon the grouping, whether they are supervisors or not management. In the case of the check here, in the case of the daily paid employees, it runs to about percentage. You're talking of absolute pesos. Monthly CB increase is average. You're talking about average for the 3-year period. It's 1,407.50. That answers the question.
I think so, sir. Okay, so our next question, what if the union refused to get back to work even when the Secretary of Labor assumed jurisdiction and the management terminate the employees for illegal strike?
That is really a problem in some cases. I recall the case of DPI a long time ago. They did a strike, and there was an order coming from the Department of Labor for them to return to work, and they refused. And as a result of the refusal, the strike was declared illegal, and all the officers and other people, other members who were responsible for the strike and refused to accept the order of the department were considered as dismissed.
All right. So apparently,
Let me just go back
right. All right,
to
sir.
the immediate preceding question.
Okay,
I was talking about the case of the monthly. The case of the daily rate employees, the average pay is year 5 is 39 pesos
so the average is 39 pesos
per day.
per day. Oh, that's pretty big if you think about it. So what are some of the economic and non-economic trends in the CBA negotiated by the union?
Vacation leave, for example, sick leave, usually runs, in the case of vacation leave, sick leave, it runs from 5 days to 30 days. Again, let me emphasize that it depends upon the number of years that you have in the service. Usually, CB provides that the longer you serve the company, the more you receive, the more days you receive, more vacation leave days you receive, entitled to, as well as sick leave. So there is even figure here that an employee who has been in the service for the last 30 years is entitled to vacation leave of 45 days.
All right. So, attorney, what will be the effect if the demands indicated in the CBA are not met? So, if management doesn't push through with what was agreed upon, what's going to happen there?
Again, it goes back to the importance of the CBA. If you are well armed, you are well prepared, you have achieved, so far as an HR professional said, you have already achieved 50% victory in the battle. The important thing there is you must know what to give and not to give. And you will only know that you are already prepared, if you are prepared, and has read all the important facts and figures that are stated there in the survey.
All right. For our next question, where is the right venue to file the notice of strike by the union?
What are what?
Where is the right venue to file the notice of strike by the union?
The notice strike is not filed with the Secretary of Labor.
So
And in the case of, not directly to the Secretary of Labor, but with the regional office. And usually it is the NCMB that assumes jurisdiction. Why NCMB? That is how the Department of Labor is structured. The NCMB is known as National Conciliation and Mediation Board. They have a system they called SENA, single entry. Once they file a notice of strike, the NCMB assumes jurisdiction and summons the both parties to come for conciliation and mediation. Now, let me emphasize that the power of the conciliator or mediator is done compulsory. That is the difference between compulsory arbitration and voluntary arbitration. In the case of compulsory arbitration, cases are filed with the NLRC, and the NLRC assumes jurisdiction and it makes an adjudication in favor of one party or the other, whether you like it or not. But in the case of the NCB, it only mediates, it only conciliates, and look for a win-win situation, a win-win solution, if they can find it. However, if in spite of the mediatory power, persuasive skills employed by the NCB through the so-called maid arbiters, if they can still not convince both parties to agree, they need to certify it to the NLRC.
Oh, okay.
Or they can go strike. But to the credit of NCB, by the way, since I am also the commissioner of the so-called tripartite voluntary arbitration advisory council representing the employer side, they have done a good yeoman's job. And as a result of their mediation, they are able to avoid strikes. So the strikes right now are reduced to the barest minimum. And I would give the credit to the NCMB for their proactive approach when it comes to this. In fact, under the practice right now in NCMB, at the height of the negotiations, even if there is no notice strike being filed, if the sense that the negotiations is not going far and there is a danger that they might reach into deadlock, the NCMB proactively can already summon them for conciliation mediation with their assistance.
All right. We have another question. So what are the various political issues raised by the union?
Various political what?
Issues raised.
Usually the political issues in the case of bargaining are usually the so-called union security clauses. There are always three. As I mentioned earlier, closed shop. Closed shop is that if the agreement is closed shop, meaning no employee, no person can be employed in the company unless you first join the union. That is not very common here. Although there are some, but only very few. But the most common are either union shop or maintenance or membership shop. In the case of union shop, is once you are done, you're through with the provisional period of 6 months, and you are regularized, okay, you are duty bound to join the union. Because if you don't join the union, the company can fire you because there's agreement. Any employee who is regularized must automatically join the union. If he refuses to join the union, he can be fired. That is illegal ground. Okay. The lesser union security clause is the so-called maintenance of membership shop. Okay. In the case of maintenance of membership shop, once an employee becomes regular and he belongs to the so-called bargaining unit, he has two options, either to join the union or not. In short, the employee who is regularized has the freedom to choose whether he joins the union or not. But once he chooses not to join the union, and yet he avails of the salary increases secured by the union in the negotiations, he is duty bound to pay the so-called agency fee. The agency fee is the same amount that the regular members of the union pay as union dues. If the union due, for example, is 1,000, the employee who refuses to join or refuses to join the union is also duty bound to pay the same amount of 1,000 to the so-called agency fee. The reason for that is that this was done, it was amended, the labor code was amended about 15 years ago or so. The reason is the union were complaining. Sabi nila in Tagalog, kami ang nagtatanim, ay iba ang maani. If you want to join the union, if you want to avail of the benefits that through our own sweat and tears, sabi nila, have availed, we've secured it from the company, therefore you must also shoulder the burden of paying the union dues. Since you are not member of the union, you should pay to the so-called agency. That's why that is now provided for the labor code that any non-member of the union under the maintenance and workshop who avail of the benefits and salary increases secured by the union through the collective bargaining agreement must also pay so-called agency.
All right. So we have another question. Normally, rank and file employees are allowed to be union members. Can middle management, like supervisors, create their own union? Is this allowed in the labor code?
Supervisors at the labor code can join or organize the union, but they cannot join with a rank and file union or non-management. Managers are not allowed to join or organize the union.
Okay.
Now, don't be misled. Keep this in mind, that the law is not guided by the title. In examining whether you are a manager, supervisor, or rank file, they must look at the job content or the job description. Even if your title is that of a manager, but for all intents and purposes, your actual job is that of the supervisor, you're eligible to organize a union or join the supervisory union.
All right. Just as a reminder, we have 20 minutes left for question and answer. So if you have any questions for Attorney Nolly, kindly send them through the comment box on your control panel. So our next question is, if union members refuse transfer of location assignment, and the CBA clause only says that they can refuse if it's not agreeable to their living standards, can they be subjected to violation, especially if the manpower is needed in the site and not in the site where they are currently assigned?
It is basically, let me say this. It is a management prerogative for a company to transfer employee from one location to another. Okay? In fact, if you are a salesman, you're required to sign in the contract that being a salesman, due to the exchanges in the service, you can be assigned from Manila, for example, to Cebu or even to Sulu. That is the contract. However, there is a limitation to that. If the transfer of assignment to another location is to circumvent the right of an employee to organize or join a union, that is not allowed. In short, in order to transfer, while it is a right and managed prerogative, it must not be tainted with evil motives to kill the union or for people not organizing. If, for example, an employee is organizing a union and the management has heard about that, and in order to stop or nip it in the bud, the management decided to transfer that organizer from Manila, let's say, and transfer it to Mindanao, he can charge that the company of union busting, and it is not allowed.
All right. For our next question, can an organization have more than one union?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, there are many companies. Look, as I've stated earlier, out of 297 risk design CBAs that are covered this Colbar Index, it only involves 247 companies. Why? Because there are many companies that are covered in the CBA that are multi-union. Let me say, to cite an example. We're consulting for Cibron, used to be known as Caltex. Caltex has 7 unions. Did you know that? They have one in the refinery, which is known. They have the most. They have close the refinery. They have the supervisors union. They have a union in the depot in Pandacan. They have a union for sales. They have a union for rank and file. They have a union in the office for supervisors. BPI, for example, BPI has multi-union. BPI is different union here in Manila. The branch in Davao is different union. The branch in Iloilo is different union. The branch in Cebu is different union. It is multi-union. How many unions? I don't know. Maybe there are about 10 or more in BPI.
Hey, sir, just a follow-up question. Why do you think companies have more than one union? Di ba pwede, sir, na isa lang yung union or...
Allowed by law, yeah. Number one, under the law, rank and file employees can organize a union. Okay, that's one. On the other hand, the law also provides, allows supervisors to organize their own union. So that by itself already allows for you supervisors union and rank and file. But there are big companies like Cibron, for example, that are multi-union because depending upon the category of employees or location, there is a union. Like I said, the Padacan Depot has a union, the salesman has a union, the rank and file is a union, the office employees is a union, supervisors is a union.
Okay, so each of these unions have different collective bargaining agreements.
Yes,
and
yes.
different
And sometimes they are independent, and sometimes one union, one company has a federation, belongs to a federation, but there are unions that are also local or independent.
All right. So our next question, is it mandated for the union to conduct election every 5 years or whatever is stipulated?
It depends upon the duration of the contract that you've agreed. As I said, there are two kinds of duration. One is 3 years, the other one is 5 years. So if the duration is 3 years, they are mandated to negotiate after the 3-year period. Now, 60 days before the expiration of the 3-year period, the union normally notifies the management that we are now planning to renegotiate with you for a new contract because the contract is now about to expire in 60 days. So that's the 3-year period. In the case of the 5-year period, they can negotiate after 5 years. Okay. However, there are also companies that have two kinds of duration. In the case of the economic benefits, it is negotiable after 3 years. In the case of the political issues, it is negotiable after 5 years.
All right.
So it depends upon the agreement that they have struck into between the two parties.
Okay. So how can we identify the eligible personnel who can run as officer or be a member of a union? Are there specific departments that cannot be included as members in a union?
Yes, that's a good question. That is always a bone of contention during negotiations. Who are part of the bargaining unit, who are not part of the bargaining unit. If, for example, the rank and file has organized a union, in the inclusion or exclusion, that is where they will tackle the issue of management will say, no, this guy or girl cannot join the part of the bargaining unit because he is occupying a confidential position, like my secretary. I wouldn't allow my secretary to be part of the union because even if he is a non-management employee, he is occupying confidential position. A cashier, for example, usually is out of the union. Although there are some companies that allow their cashier to join a union. In some companies, for example, IT people are outside of the bargaining unit. Why? Because IT has access to all confidential facts and figures of the company, like, for example, the financial statements, etc. So it depends upon the unit. It depends upon the uh, the agreement of both parties. But if you follow the law strictly, any rank and file employee, regardless of whether you are a secretary or occupy a confidential position, can join it. Because the usual argument during the negotiation, the usual argument of the union is, look, there are only three classifications in the report. One is a manager employee. A manager is one who is vested with the right to hire, fire, transfer, demote, or discipline an employee. In the case of supervisor, is one who can effectively recommend to hire, promote, demote, fire, or move, or transfer, or promote an employee. A supervisor, a rank and file are those that are found in the two definitions.
All right. So from the time of receipt of a CBA proposal, is the management given time to review this, and how long should they get back to the union or set a meeting with them?
Usually, it takes time for the management to study, especially in a big company. Once it receives the union proposal, the usual action management is to say, acknowledging the receipt and telling them that give us time to study. But in my own experience, I think 1 month is too long now. Beyond 1 month, the union will be already uneasy. The union might think that you're trying to cook, to shoot the breeze, or play with time. And they would normally complain that, look, we have given you the proposal for 1 month now, and we have not received any news. And therefore, 1 month to me is the normal time for to stand. Beyond that, they can already ascribe, the union can ascribe or impute some evil motives to management. That you are trying to undermine the efficacy or the effectiveness of the union.
Okay. So in your experience po, how often usually does the management review the union's request?
2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks.
Because if you are really prepared, if you have your own survey or you have the core bar index, for example, and you know already all the facts and figures, you know what to give, you know what not to give, you can fix only few times, few days for you to study. And remember that when it comes to the usual deadline is due to economic demand, salary increases, wage increases. Before it takes time to compute what is the economic impact of a certain demand. But right now, in the new technology, you use Excel. For example, you ask for let's say 1,000. In my own experience before, I usually ask the finance manager or my compensation manager, use your Excel, compute it. What's the economic impact of that? If it will involve sometime, let's say, for example, 2 million in a month, I said, no, we not accept it. So it's very easy to study the economic impact because of the new technology. Unlike before, in the olden days, back in the 70s, there was only the calculator. Wala pa ang calculator na araw. My experience before, to my embarrassment when I was young, my big boss, an American, I was working all my life almost in multinational companies, was an engineer. He was using the slide rule.
Wow.
And I was embarrassed because I don't know slide rule. And the finance manager part of my team also learned the use of the slide rule. I thought to myself, oh, I wish I were Chinese so that I can use also the abacus. And I was at those making argument and contributing to the argument because I don't know what are the effects, the kind of impact of the salary increases. I only join when it comes to legal age issues. But right now, like I said, with the new technology, it's very easy to know what's the economic impact. They will say, for example, boss. We're only asking for 200 pesos a day. Magkano lang yan? But you must, if you are a smart negotiator, you must know it's not all 200 pesos. You analyze the flow-through effect of that. If you give, for example, 200 pesos increase for the first year, how much the compound effect of that in terms of the flow-through effect on the vacation leave, sick leave, overtime cost? It increases. So actually, they're not asking 200 pesos. For all you know, if you examine, analyze the economic impact, they might be asking 900 pesos.
Okay, so we're down to our last few questions. If you have any questions, you still have time. Our EMAP team is currently looking into your questions and we'll try to get to them. So we're down to our last 10 minutes. So next question, can the union demand retroactive salary increase if the CBA negotiation lasted for more than 6
Yes,
months?
yeah. If the management agrees.
Right.
But I doubt if there is sane management that will agree to that, unless there is a gun stuck in their neck. For example, there is the threat to strike, and the management of the company cannot afford to strike, so they must accept. But it is granted. It depends upon the management to grant a retroactive. Sometimes, in my case, for example, I was working in the telecommunications company. We normally, as a strategy, our expiry period happens in July. It was my strategy to prolong the negotiation up until December. You know why? Because come December, there is already the pressure of the members of the union to settle the negotiation because the coming bonus, the 30-month pay, and therefore there's a pressure for them to accept. Now, as an incentive for them to accept our last, concession, is we agree to retroactive position.
All right. So our next question is a situational question. If a union president resigns in a company and left the union with no president, can management dissolve the union due to this?
No, you cannot.
They cannot.
Of course you cannot.
So the union still stays.
In the Philippines, there's such thing as the certification union. The resignation of the president does not make the union extinct. It still exists.
Okay. So our next question, what is the best strategy in choosing management panel and chairman of the panel?
Prepare. Prepare, prepare, and prepare. And you cannot prepare unless you are armed with the so-called Corbar Index. Therefore, the Corbar Index is really very material, very important for you to know, so that you will know what are the trends. Like I said, it's bad to underpay, it is equally bad to overpay. And I know of some companies that have overpaid, and their problem is how to shrink their pay structure. And sometimes they run across with some problems. So you should be careful of that.
All right. So our next question, if there is a pending merit increase and it will be implemented next month, but the monthly rank and file employees create their union and the management only implemented it for managerial and supervisory positions, can they hold the merit increase for the monthly rank and file employees?
Can they what?
Can they hold the merit increase for the
Hold?
hold the merit increase for the monthly rank and file?
What you want?
Can they hold the merit increase?
Oh, yes. I find that's one reason why in unionized companies, merit increase is usually not done for those belong to the rank and file. Because, look, they have already received the so-called anniversary increase granted yearly to the CBA, right? The company grants merit increase? No way. However, now that you mentioned that, it reminds me. Many years back, I wrote an article in the People Managers magazine, and this was based on facts and figures, on data, about the so-called uh, uh, what do you call that? I think Chevron has that. The based on merit, performance-based bargaining, meaning even if you are a member of the union and you have gotten the salary increase, if you don't deserve it based on performance, that is what is called performance. In short, even the president of the union, if he does not the performance rating, he's not entitled to city increase. That was that. And some companies have done that before. Chevron, used to be known as Caltex. Swelling has done that. But in the case of Swelling at the time, para hindi masashock ang union, ginawa 50% salary increase automatic as obtained by the union. The 50% is based on performance. That is what is called as performance-based bargaining. I think it's about time that companies should encourage that, apply that to change the paradigm of the union. If you belong to a union, whether you are a lousy performer, whether you're a high achiever or a high flyer, you receive the same amount of pay. That is unfair. You discourage high flyers because sabihin ng mga high performers, performer ko, ganun din ang salary. Why should I perform higher? So, kailangan meron din increase. It's the performance-based practice.
All right. Unfortunately, due to the lack of time, we only have time for 2 more questions.
Okay.
So the next question is, how many companies were surveyed for this Colbar Index?
Like I said, 247 companies covered and registered with the Bureau of Labor Relations.
Okay, so okay, this is our last question. So per labor law, field personnel are not entitled to overtime pay.
You know?
Field personnel,
Yes.
so the ones that are outside of the office. If a company currently pays their field personnel and they are union members, can they still correct this?
You
Not
cannot.
pay them overtime?
Well, if the company agrees, why not? But basically, under the law, they are not entitled to receive overtime. You know why? Because field personnel are like managers. They are free to go out. And they are measured by the results. How much to deliver in terms of sales quota at the end of the month. Meaning they only report sometimes in the morning and sometimes they don't report. And some of them, we just go to a movie, watch a movie, or date somebody in the hotel. That's not the business of the company. What is important at the end of the month, how much you deliver. Were you able to achieve the quota? Were you over quota? And therefore, since it's difficult to look for them during the whole 8 hours, naturally they're entitled to overtime. Why should they be paid overtime? When they have all the right to shoot the breeze and go around, bump around without being supervised by the employee. They are beyond supervision because they are field personnel. So managers, field personnel are not entitled to overtime because of the law, and there is a cogent reason for that because you cannot survive overtime.
All right. So allow me to take this opportunity to thank you, Attorney Nolly, for sharing with us crucial insights that I am sure will help PMAP listeners here in conducting their respective collective bargaining negotiations. Just like our 2016 Salary and Benefit Survey, if you wish to get a copy of the full report of 2016 Colbar Index, you may contact our research team for more information. Like our salary survey earlier, I have with me the copy of 2016 Colbar. So we hope that you'll be interested in getting a copy. Also, if you wish to review this webinar again on a later date, a video of the proceedings will be uploaded on the PMAP website soon. PMAP cares, and this is our way to help uplift the HR profession in our country through free learning sessions through innovative ways. So before we end, I'd just like to acknowledge the people behind this webinar, our speakers, Attorney Nolly and Sir Bobby, our IT personnel, Sir Jeff Palma and Delius Rosales, President Mon Segismundo, Edie Renejener, and Secretary Michelle Garcia, and the PMAP research team headed by Ms. Sara Niguas, Narel Cabuena, and Isa Nick. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining us in today's webinar, and we hope that you'll join us again for the next one. Once again, this is Isa Neri, and on behalf of our speakers today, thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.